The morning sun cast long shadows across the rocky landscape of Kepler 442b, as Dr. Hannah Kim adjusted her field scanner for the third time. The device hummed quietly in her hands, its screen showing the underground formations beneath her feet. She had been walking for 2 hours through the canyon system, following strange energy readings that appeared on the colony's deep sensors. 3 days ago, Hannah wiped sweat from her forehead and looked back toward the distant lights of New Sol Colony. The settlement looked tiny from here, just a cluster of white buildings surrounded by the dark purple vegetation that grew on this alien world. She had volunteered for this survey mission because something about the readings felt different. In her 5 years as a xenorchaeologist on Kepler 442b, she had never seen energy patterns like these. The canyon walls rose high on both sides of her, made of smooth black stone that reflected the orange light of the alien sun. Strange blue flowers grew in cracks between the rocks, and tiny flying creatures buzzed overhead. This world was beautiful, but it always felt like it was hiding secrets. Her scanner beeped loudly. Hannah stopped walking and looked at the screen. The energy readings were getting stronger. She was close to something. Following the scanner's guidance, she climbed over a pile of fallen rocks and found herself standing at the edge of a dark opening in the canyon wall. The opening was perfectly round, about 3 meters wide. Water flowed out of it in a steady stream, forming a small river that wound its way down the canyon. But this was not natural water flow. The edges of the tunnel were too smooth, too perfect. Someone or something had built this. Hannah pulled out her flashlight and shined it into the tunnel. The beam disappeared into darkness. She could hear water echoing deep inside, but there was something else, a sound, like breathing, slow and tired. She took a step closer to the tunnel entrance and called out softly, "Hello, is someone there?" The breathing sound stopped. Hannah's heart began beating faster. In all her years on this planet, they had never found signs of intelligent life. The original survey teams had declared Kepler 440 to be empty of sentient species, but now she was hearing something that sounded very much like a living creature. She called out again, louder this time, "I'm not going to hurt you. My name is Hannah." A low growling sound came from the darkness. Not angry or threatening, but tired. So very tired. Hannah aimed her flashlight deeper into the tunnel and gasped. 2 yellow eyes reflected the light back at her. Large eyes, intelligent eyes, set in a face that looked like a cross between a wolf and something completely alien. The creature was lying on a raised stone platform just inside the tunnel entrance. Its dark fur, matted and thin. The alien wolf creature lifted its head slowly, as if the movement caused great pain. It looked at Hannah with those ancient yellow eyes, and she felt like it was studying her soul. The creature was clearly very weak. Its breathing was labored, and she could see its ribs showing through its fur. "Oh, you poor thing," Hannah whispered. She took a small step forward, but the creature made a warning sound and struggled to stand. Even in its weakened state, it was trying to guard the tunnel. The alien was tall when standing, probably reaching Hannah's shoulder. Its legs shook with the effort of staying upright, but it positioned itself directly between Hannah and the dark tunnel behind it. This creature was protecting something. Hannah slowly sat down on a rock near the tunnel entrance, making herself less threatening. "I'm not going to hurt you," she said in a gentle voice, "and I'm not going to try to go past you. I can see you're guarding something important." The creature watched her carefully but did not lie back down. Its yellow eyes never left her face. Hannah pulled out her emergency ration pack and unwrapped a protein bar. The alien's nose twitched at the smell of food, and she saw hunger flash across its intelligent features. Without making any sudden movements, she broke off a piece of the protein bar and tossed it gently toward the creature. The alien sniffed the food but did not eat it. Instead, it pushed the piece away with its nose and continued watching Hannah. "You don't trust me yet," Hannah said. "That's smart. I don't know what you've been through, but you look like you haven't eaten in a very long time." She pulled out her scanner and aimed it at the creature. The readings were incredible. The alien showed signs of advanced brain activity, far beyond anything they had found on this planet. But more interesting were the age readings. The scanner was detecting cellular degradation patterns that suggested this creature was extremely old, impossibly old. Hannah's communication device crackled to life. "Hannah, this is base camp. Please report your location." She recognized the voice of Dr. Tae-sung, her research partner. She pressed the reply button while keeping her eyes on the alien creature. "I'm about 15 kilometers east of base camp. Following the energy readings, Tae, I've found something incredible." "What kind of something?" "Your scanner readings are off the charts from here." Hannah looked at the weak but defiant creature guarding the tunnel. "I've found a sentient alien. It appears to be guarding some kind of underground structure." Static filled the communication channel for several seconds. Then Tae's voice came back, higher and more excited. "Are you serious, Hannah? This could change everything, but you need to be careful. We don't know if it's dangerous." The alien creature seemed to understand that Hannah was talking to others. Its ears perked up and it looked more alert. Worried, Even I don't think it's dangerous, Hannah said into her communicator. It's very weak and appears to be alone. But, Tay, I think it's been here for a very long time. My scanner readings suggest it might be thousands of years old. That's impossible. I know how it sounds, but you need to see this for yourself. I'm going to stay here and try to establish communication. Absolutely. Not Hannah, you need to return to base immediately. We need to report this to Colonial Command and plan a proper first contact protocol. Hannah looked at the struggling creature. It was clearly dying, probably from starvation and exhaustion. If she left now to follow proper procedures, it might not survive until she returned. I'm staying, Tay. This creature needs help, and it might not be here when we get back with a full team. I'll keep my communicator open and report everything. Hannah, please reconsider. This could be dangerous. But Hannah had already made her decision. She turned off her communicator and looked back at the alien guardian. It's just you and me now, she said softly. I want to help you, but I need you to trust me. The creature tilted its head slightly, as if it understood her words. For the first time since she had found it, the alien slowly lowered itself back, down onto the stone platform. It was still watching her carefully, but some of the tension had left its body. Hannah smiled and settled more comfortably on her rock. She had a feeling this was going to be a very long and very important conversation. 3 hours had passed since Hannah first discovered the alien guardian. The creature still lay on its stone platform, yellow eyes watching her every movement. During this time, Hannah had tried everything she could think of to communicate. She had shown it pictures on her tablet, made simple gestures, and even tried drawing symbols in the dirt with a stick. The alien watched everything with great interest but made no attempt to respond. Its breathing had become more labored as the day grew warmer, and Hannah could see that it was growing weaker. She pulled out her water bottle and held it up where the creature could see it. Water, she said slowly, pointing to the bottle. Need water? The alien's ears moved slightly at the sound of her voice, but it did not react to the offered water. Instead, it turned its head toward the flowing stream that came from the tunnel behind it. Hannah understood. The creature had access to water from the tunnel, but it was too weak to move far from its guarding position to drink. She looked at the stream, then back at the alien. You can't leave your post, can you? She said softly. You're afraid that if you move away from the tunnel, something bad will happen. The alien's yellow eyes seemed to show surprise at her words. It raised its head slightly and made a low sound, almost like a whimper. Hannah stood up slowly and walked to the edge of the stream. She filled her water bottle with the clear, flowing water and returned to her position near the tunnel entrance. This time, instead of offering the bottle to the creature, she set it down on the ground between them and backed away. The alien looked at the water bottle, then at Hannah. After a long moment, it struggled to its feet and moved just far enough to reach the bottle. It sniffed the container carefully, then figured out how to drink from it. The creature drank deeply, its eyes closing with relief. When it had finished drinking, the alien pushed the empty bottle back toward Hannah with its nose and returned to its guarding position. But this time, it made a different sound. A low rumbling that almost sounded like gratitude. You're welcome, Hannah said, refilling the bottle from the stream. My name is Hannah. She pointed to herself as she said her name. The creature tilted its head and made a complex sound that contained clicks, growls, and something that might have been vowels. Then it touched its chest with one paw. Is that your name? Hannah asked. Excitedly, she tried to repeat the sound, but failed completely. The alien made what might have been a chuckling sound and tried again, speaking more slowly. Vorthok, Hannah attempted. The creature nodded its head up and down, clearly understanding the human gesture of agreement. Vorthok, Hannah repeated, and the alien made that pleased rumbling sound again. Hannah's communicator crackled to life. Hannah, this is Dr. Tae-sung. Please respond. It's been over 3 hours. She picked up the device, but kept her voice low so as not to startle Vorthok. Here, Tae, I'm safe, thank goodness. Listen, I've been running analysis on your scanner readings. The energy signatures coming from that location are unlike anything we've seen before. Colonial Command wants a full report. Hannah looked at Vorthok, who was listening to the conversation with obvious concern. Tell them I've established basic communication with the alien. Its name is Vorthok, and it's definitely intelligent. That's incredible, Hannah. But Captain Jinwoo is demanding that you return to base immediately. He says contact with unknown alien species requires proper protocols. I can't leave yet. Tae Vorthok is very sick and weak. He's been guarding this tunnel for what appears to be a very long time. If I leave now, he might die before we can return. Static filled the channel for a moment. Hannah, the captain is getting angry. He's talking about sending a security team to bring you back. Vorthok's ears perked up at the word security team, and he struggled to stand again. His yellow eyes darted between Hannah and her communicator, and she could see fear in his expression. Tell the captain that sending armed soldiers would be the worst possible idea, Hannah said firmly. Vorthok is already afraid of humans. If he sees weapons, it could destroy any chance of peaceful communication. I'll tell him, but I don't think he'll listen. You know how he feels about taking risks with colonist safety. Hannah turned off her communicator and looked at Vorthok. The alien was clearly agitated by the conversation. He had positioned himself more protectively in front of the tunnel entrance and was watching the canyon walls, as if expecting soldiers to appear at any moment. It's okay, Hannah said in her most soothing voice. I won't let them hurt you. Vorth looked at her with those ancient yellow eyes and made a series of complex sounds. His tone was urgent, almost desperate. He was trying to tell her something important. Hannah pulled out her tablet and activated the translation program. It was designed to find patterns in alien languages, but it needed more data to work properly. Can you say that again, Vorthok slowly? The alien repeated his urgent message, speaking more carefully this time. The translation program began analyzing the sounds, looking for patterns and meaning. After several minutes of Vorthok repeating different phrases, the program began to show partial translations. Most of it was still gibberish, but a few words were starting to make sense. Words like danger, waiting, and important. You're trying to warn me about something, Hannah said. The tunnel you're guarding contains something dangerous. Vorthok nodded vigorously and made more sounds. The translator picked up new words: long time, protect, and something that might have meant death. You've been protecting people from whatever is in that tunnel, Hannah continued, piecing together the meaning. For a long time, a very long time. The alien's expression grew sad, and he made a long mournful sound. The translator suggested it might mean alone, or last one. You're the last one, Hannah whispered. The last of your people. Vorthok lowered his head and made a sound that needed no translation. It was the sound of grief, of loss so deep that it had been carried for centuries. Hannah felt tears in her eyes. This ancient being had been guarding this tunnel alone, protecting others from some terrible danger, long after his own people had died. He was dying himself now, but he refused to abandon his post. How long, Vorthok? She asked softly. How long have you been here alone? The alien raised his head and looked directly at her. He made a series of sounds that the translator worked on for several minutes. When the result appeared on her screen, Hannah gasped. 3,000 years, she read aloud. You've been guarding this tunnel for 3,000 years. Vorthok nodded slowly, and Hannah saw intelligence in his eyes that was older than human civilization. This creature had been standing watch over some terrible secret since before humans had learned to write. The sound of aircraft engines echoed through the canyon. Vorthok immediately became alert and defensive, positioning himself protectively in front of the tunnel. In the distance, Hannah could see two colonial security shuttles approaching fast. I'm sorry, she said to Vorthok. I tried to stop them from coming, but to her surprise, the ancient guardian looked at her with what might have been understanding. He made a soft sound and touched her hand gently with his paw. The gesture was unmistakable. He was thanking her for trying to protect him. As the shuttles landed and armed soldiers began approaching their position, Hannah made a decision that would change everything. She stood up and placed herself between the soldiers and Vorthok. Stay back, she called to the approaching troops. He's not dangerous. He's a guardian, and he needs our help. Captain Jinwoo stepped forward from behind his soldiers, his face grim. Dr. Kim, step away from the alien immediately. That's an order, but Hannah didn't move. Behind her, Vorthok made a sound that sounded almost like approval. For the first time in 3,000 years, someone was standing guard with him. Captain Jinwoo stood 20 meters away from the tunnel entrance, his weapon drawn but pointed at the ground. 6 armed soldiers flanked him, all watching Vorthok with nervous eyes. The ancient alien guardian remained perfectly still behind Hannah, but she could feel the tension radiating from his weakened body. Dr. Kim, I'm ordering you to step away from that creature, Captain Jinwoo said firmly. We don't know what it's capable of. His name is Vorthok, Hannah replied without moving. And he's not dangerous. He's been protecting this tunnel for 3,000 years. 3,000 years. The captain's voice showed his disbelief. That's impossible. Nothing lives that long. Dr. Tae-sung stepped out from behind the soldiers, carrying his scanner and looking fascinated despite the tense situation. Actually, Captain Dr. Kim's readings are correct. The cellular degradation patterns suggest extreme age. This creature is ancient. Vorthok made a low sound and slowly moved to stand beside Hannah, rather than behind her. The gesture was clear to everyone present. He was showing that he trusted her enough to make himself vulnerable. See, Hannah said softly. He's not threatening anyone. He's just tired and hungry and alone. Captain Jinwoo lowered his weapon slightly, but didn't put it away. Even if that's true, we have protocols for first contact situations. This alien needs to be studied in a controlled environment. Vorthok's ears flattened against his head, and he made a distressed sound. The translation program on Hannah's tablet, which had been learning his language patterns, displayed partial words: no leave, guard, danger. He can't leave his post, Hannah explained. He's guarding something inside the tunnel. Something dangerous. What kind of dangerous? Tae-sung asked. Stepping closer with his scanner active, Vorthok looked at the approaching scientist and made a decision. He began speaking in his complex language, his voice urgent and filled with ancient fear. The translation program worked frantically to decode his words. "Wait," Hannah said, watching the screen. "He's trying to tell us something important." The words began appearing on her tablet. "Ancient enemy, sleeping weapon, death for all worlds. My people gone, I remain to guard." Captain Jinwoo moved closer to read over Hannah's shoulder. "Are you saying there's some kind of weapon in that tunnel?" Vorthok nodded vigorously and continued speaking. More words appeared. "Devourers consume everything. No stopping once awake. Water keeps sleeping. Devourers," Taesung repeated. "What are devourers?" Vorthok's yellow eyes grew distant, as if he was remembering something too terrible to forget. He spoke again, his voice filled with pain and loss. The translator worked for several minutes before displaying the translation. "They came from dark between stars. They ate our world, our people, everything, made all into one mind, one hunger. My people found their weapon, but too late. We flood the tunnels, keep weapons sleeping in water. I stay to guard. I am last." The group fell silent as the full meaning of Vorthok's words sank in. This ancient creature was the sole survivor of an entire civilization, standing guard over a weapon that had destroyed his people. "A bioweapon," Taesung whispered, his scanner beeping rapidly as he aimed it at the tunnel. "Captain, I'm reading. Massive energy signatures deep underground. Something is definitely down there." Captain Jinwoo holstered his weapon and activated his communicator. "Base camp, this is Captain Jinwoo. I need immediate contact with Governor Lee Minho. We have a situation." Vorthok watched the captain with growing alarm. He turned to Hannah and spoke rapidly, the translator displaying, "Your people must not wake it. Water level dropping. I feel it stirring." "What do you mean the water level is dropping?" Hannah asked. Vorthok gestured toward the stream flowing from the tunnel. For the first time, Hannah noticed that the water flow seemed weaker than when she had first arrived. The stream was definitely smaller. Taesung checked his scanner readings. "He's right. The underground water table in this area has been dropping steadily. Our mining operations have been pumping water from the deep aquifers." "Mining operations?" Hannah turned to Captain Jinwoo. "What mining operations?" "Director Park Sola's team has been extracting minerals from the deep cave systems about 50 kilometers east of here," the captain explained. "They've been working there for 3 months. Vorthok made a sound that needed no translation. It was a howl of despair and terror. "The mining is draining the water that keeps the weapon dormant." Hannah realized, "Captain, we need to stop all mining operations immediately." "I can't authorize that without approval from Colonial Command," Jinwoo replied. "Those mining operations are worth millions to the colony." Vorthok struggled to his feet, his weakness forgotten in his panic. He began speaking rapidly, his voice growing more desperate with each word. The translator displayed, "Already waking. I feel its hunger growing. Dreams of eating, consuming, spreading. Soon it will have strength to break free. Your people must leave this world. All must leave." "How much time do we have?" Taesung asked. Vorthok tilted his head, as if listening to something only he could hear. Then he made a sound that chilled everyone present. "Days, maybe less. It grows stronger as water falls. When it wakes fully, it will consume everything on world in hours. Then it will reach for stars, find other worlds." Captain Jinwoo's communicator crackled to life. "Captain, this is Governor Lee Minho. Report your situation." Jinwoo looked at Vorthok, then at Hannah. "Governor, we've discovered an ancient alien weapon that poses a potential threat to the colony. The alien guardian claims it could destroy all life on the planet." Static filled the channel for several seconds. "Captain, did you say ancient alien weapon?" "Yes, sir. Dr. Kim has established communication with the guardian. The creature claims his people were destroyed by this weapon, and he's been guarding it for 3,000 years. I'll need a full briefing immediately. Bring the alien back to base for questioning." Vorthok heard the governor's words and made a sound of absolute refusal. He moved back toward the tunnel entrance, positioning himself defensively. "He won't leave his post," Hannah said into the communicator. "Governor, he's been guarding this weapon for 3 millennia. He's not going to abandon it now. Then we'll study the weapon in place. I'm sending a full research team." "No." Vorthok's word was one of the few that the translator had learned completely. He followed it with a long explanation that appeared on the screen. "Cannot study safely. Weapon reads minds, learns from thoughts. The more minds near it, the faster. It wakes already. I feel it touching dreams of your people in mining tunnels." Taesung went pale. "The mining team, if this weapon can affect human minds, they could be in danger right now." Captain Jinwoo immediately activated his emergency channel. "Base camp, I need immediate contact with Mining Director Park Sola, Priority 1. After several tense minutes, a voice crackled through the static. "This is Mining Team Leader Chul Min. Director Park is in the deep tunnels. She can't be reached right now." "What do you mean she can't be reached?" "Strange readings started about an hour ago. Then the communication equipment stopped working in the lower levels. Director Park went down with a team to investigate." Vorthok let out a mournful howl. He looked at Hannah with his ancient yellow eyes and spoke one last time. The translator displayed his words. It has begun. The weapon tastes your people's minds. Soon it will have enough strength to wake fully. I have failed, after 3,000 years. I have failed. The ancient guardian collapsed onto a stone platform, his strength finally giving out. But his eyes remained fixed on the dark tunnel behind him, and in those depths, something was beginning to stir. Far beneath their feet. In flooded chambers that had remained undisturbed for millennia, a terrible intelligence was slowly awakening. And it was hungry. The emergency meeting in the Colonial Council chamber was unlike anything New Soul Colony had ever seen. Governor Lee Minho sat at the head of the long metal table, his face grave as he studied the reports in front of him. Around the table sat Captain Jinwoo, Dr. Hannah Kim, Dr. Tae Sung, Mining Director Park Sola, and 3 other department heads. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, Governor Lee said slowly. Dr. Kim, you're telling us that an alien creature has been guarding an ancient weapon for 3,000 years, and our mining operations may have awakened this weapon. Hannah nodded. That's correct, Governor. Vortex people, the Kethver discovered this bioweapon after it had already destroyed their civilization. They managed to flood the underground chambers to keep it dormant, but they all died except for Vorthok. Mining Director Park Sola laughed harshly. This is ridiculous. We're supposed to shut down profitable mining operations because of stories from a dying alien animal. It's not just stories, Dr. Tae Sung interrupted, placing his tablet on the table. I've analyzed the energy readings from both locations. The weapon that Vorthok is guarding and the anomalies we're detecting in the mining tunnels are connected. They're part of the same system. Governor Lee studied the scanner data. What exactly are we looking at? Dr. Tae Masabot, networks extending deep underground. The energy pattern suggests some kind of organic computer system, but on a scale we've never seen before. If Vorthok is telling the truth about this being a weapon designed to consume entire worlds, the technology involved would be far beyond our understanding. Captain Jinwoo leaned forward. Governor, I recommend immediate evacuation protocols. We can study this weapon from a safe distance. Evacuation. Director Park slammed her hand on the table. Do you have any idea how much we've invested in this colony? The mining operations alone represent 50 million credits. We can't abandon everything because of alien fairy tales. These aren't fairy tales, Hannah said firmly. I've spent hours communicating with Vorthok. He knows things about this planet that we're only beginning to discover. His people were advanced enough to build the containment system that's kept this weapon dormant for 3 millennia. Governor Lee raised his hand for silence. What about our people in the mining tunnels? Have we re-established contact with Director Park's team? Captain Jinwoo shook his head. No, sir. We lost contact with mining team leader Chul Min's group 6 hours ago. The lower tunnels are completely cut off from communication. They're probably just dealing with equipment problems, Director Park said, but her voice lacked conviction. The deep tunnels have always had communication issues. Dr. Tae studied his scanner readings. Actually, the energy signatures from the mining site have tripled in the last few hours. Something is definitely happening down there. What does Vorthok say about this? Governor Lee asked Hannah. He's very worried. He says the weapon reads minds and learns from them. The more human minds it touches, the faster it wakes up. He thinks it may already be affecting the mining team. Affecting them how? Hannah hesitated. He wasn't completely clear about that, but he seemed to think the weapon could influence people's thoughts and decisions. Director Park stood up abruptly. This is insane. We're making decisions based on the ravings of an alien creature that's probably suffering from starvation and old age. I'm going to the mining site myself to check on my team. Absolutely not, Captain Jinwoo said. If there's even a small chance that this weapon is real, sending more people into those tunnels would be extremely dangerous. Then, what do you suggest, Captain, that we abandon a 50 million credit operation and evacuate 10,000 colonists because of alien ghost stories? Governor Lee rubbed his temples. The weight of the decision was enormous. If the aliens' warnings were true, delaying action could cost thousands of lives. But if they were false, evacuating the colony would destroy years of work and investment. Dr. Kim, the governor said finally, can this alien creature prove that the weapon exists? Can he show us something concrete? I don't think Vorthok can leave his post. Hannah replied, he's been guarding the tunnel entrance for 3,000 years. He's not going to abandon it now. Then we bring the proof to us, Dr. Tae suggested. I could take a small team to the original tunnel site and use deep scanners to map the weapon structure. If it's as large as Vorthok claims, we should be able to detect it. That might work, Captain Jinwoo agreed. A small scientific team would be safer than a full expedition. Director Park looked frustrated. While you're all playing with alien stories, my mining team is trapped in those tunnels. Every minute we waste talking could be putting them in more danger, which is exactly why we need to understand what we're dealing with, Hannah said. Vorthok has been trying to warn us about something that destroyed his entire civilization. Maybe we should listen. Governor Lee was quiet for a long moment, weighing the options. Finally, he spoke. Here's what we're going to do. Dr. Tay, you'll take a small scientific team to study the weapon site. Use whatever scanners you need, but don't get too close to the tunnel entrance. Dr. Kim, you'll continue communicating with the alien and try to learn more about this weapon and how to keep it dormant. And the mining operations. Director Park asked, suspended until we know more. Captain Jin Woo, I want you to prepare evacuation plans for the colony, but don't implement them yet. If this weapon is real, we need to be ready to move quickly. Director Park's face turned red with anger. Governor, this is a mistake. We're throwing away millions of credits based on the word of a dying alien. The decision is made, Director. Governor Lee said firmly. The safety of our colonists comes first. As the meeting broke up, Hannah felt a growing sense of urgency. Through the window, she could see the alien sun setting behind the mountains. Somewhere in the darkness, Vorthok was still maintaining his ancient vigil, weak and alone. But more troubling was the thought of the mining team trapped in the deep tunnels. If Vorthok was right about the weapon's ability to influence human minds, those miners might already be in terrible danger. Dr. Tay approached her as they left the council chamber. Hannah, I'm worried about something. If this weapon can really read minds and learn from them, what happens when it learns about human technology? Our computers, our ships, our communication systems. Hannah felt a chill run down her spine. She hadn't thought about that possibility. You think it could take control of our technology? If it's as advanced as Vorthok claims, it might be able to do much worse than that. It could learn how to build human ships and spread to other worlds. They walked in silence toward the colony's vehicle bay, where Dr. Tay would gather his scientific equipment for the trip to Vorthok's tunnel. Behind them, Director Park was arguing loudly with Captain Jin Woo about the mining suspension. There's something else, Hannah said quietly. Vorthok mentioned that his people built some kind of final solution, a way to stop the weapon if it ever fully awakened. What kind of solution? He hasn't told me yet, but the way he talked about it, ... Hannah paused, remembering the ancient sadness in Vorthok's yellow eyes. I think it might be something terrible, something that would destroy the weapon but cost a lot of lives. Dr. Tay stopped walking. You mean like a bomb, maybe, or something worse? They reached the vehicle bay, where two other scientists were loading scanning equipment into a transport vehicle. The team would reach Vorthok's location in about an hour, just as full darkness fell over the canyon. Hannah, Dr. Tay said as he climbed into the driver's seat. If you're right about this final solution, we need to make sure it never comes to that. Too many people have already died because of this weapon. As the transport vehicle drove away into the growing darkness, Hannah felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. Somewhere in the deep tunnels, miners were trapped with an awakening nightmare. Somewhere in the colony, people were going about their normal lives, unaware that their world might be ending. And somewhere in a flooded tunnel, an ancient guardian was fighting to hold back a horror that had already destroyed one civilization. The question was whether humanity would prove wise enough to listen to his warnings, or stubborn enough to repeat the mistakes of the past. Director Park Sola drove her private transport through the darkness toward the mining site, her anger growing with each kilometer. 3 security guards sat behind her, all loyal employees who had worked for her mining company for years. She had convinced them that the aliens' warnings were just stories meant to scare humans away from valuable resources. Director, are you sure about this? Asked Security Chief Dong Ho from the passenger seat. Governor Lee specifically ordered us to stay away from the mining tunnels. The governor is making a mistake based on fear and alien lies, Park replied, pressing harder on the accelerator. My mining team has been out of contact for 8 hours. They could be trapped, injured, or worse. I'm not going to abandon them because of some 3,000-year-old ghost story. Behind them, Guard Jong-soo shifted nervously. But what if the alien is telling the truth? What if there really is some kind of weapon down there? Park laughed harshly. Then we'll find it and sell it to the highest bidder. Ancient alien technology would be worth billions. Either way, we're not walking away from this empty-handed. As they approached the mining site, Park could see that something was wrong. The usual lights that marked the tunnel entrances were flickering strangely, and there was an odd smell in the air, sweet and rotten at the same time. Director, Dong Ho said quietly, maybe we should call for backup. We are the backup, Park snapped. My people are down there, and I'm not leaving without them. They parked near the main tunnel entrance and gathered their equipment. Park had brought portable scanners, communication devices, and excavation tools. If there really was alien technology in the deep tunnels, she intended to bring back samples. The first thing they noticed was the silence. Mining operations were always noisy, with the sound of drilling equipment and machinery echoing through the tunnels. But now there was nothing except the drip of water and a strange humming sound that seemed to come from deep underground. Hello, Park called into the tunnel. Chillmin, can anyone hear me? Her voice echoed back, but there was no response from the mining team. They descended into the tunnel system using their helmet lights to guide the way. The tunnels were carved from the same black stone that made up most of the planet's underground structures, but something was different. The walls seemed to shimmer slightly, as if they were wet, but when Park touched them, they felt dry and warm. The air feels thick down here, Jung-soo observed, his voice muffled by his breathing mask. It's just humidity from the underground. Water, Park explained, but privately she was beginning to feel uneasy. The deeper they went, the stronger that sweet, rotten smell became. After 20 minutes of walking, they found the first sign of the missing mining team. Chulman's helmet lay abandoned in the middle of the tunnel, its light still glowing, but there was no sign of Chulman himself. Where is he? Dong-ho whispered, picking up the helmet and examining it. Park's scanner began beeping rapidly. I'm reading massive energy signatures just ahead, she said, her excitement overcoming her fear. Whatever the alien was talking about, we're close to it. They rounded a corner and found themselves in a large chamber that the mining team had excavated over the past 3 months, but the chamber was no longer empty. The walls were covered with a gray, pulsing substance that looked almost alive. It moved slowly, like thick liquid, covering every surface except for a small area around an ancient stone doorway. What is that stuff? Jung-soo asked, backing away from the walls. Park approached the gray substance with her scanner, her eyes wide with greed. It's incredible. The energy readings are off the charts. This has to be the alien technology. Director, I don't think we should touch it, Dong-ho warned. Look at the stone doorway. It's covered with symbols just like the ones Dr. Kim described from the tunnel site, but Park wasn't listening. She reached out with a sample container, intent on collecting some of the gray substance for analysis. The moment the container touched the moving gray matter, everything changed. The substance surged toward Park's hand like it was alive and hungry. She tried to pull away, but it was too late. The gray matter flowed up her arm and across her body in seconds. She had time for one scream before it covered her completely. For a moment, she stood perfectly still, covered from head to toe in the pulsing gray substance. Then she turned to face her security guards, and they saw that her eyes had changed. They were no longer human eyes, but something alien and hungry. It's beautiful, Park said, but her voice sounded different. Colder. I can see everything now. The hunger, the purpose, the plan. We've been so stupid, fighting against something so wonderful. The 3 security guards ran for the tunnel entrance. But the gray substance was already spreading across the chamber floor. It moved faster than they could run, flowing like water but with obvious intelligence and purpose. Dong-ho made it furthest before the substance caught him. As it covered his legs, he fell to the ground and reached for his communicator. Base, camp. This is Security Chief Dong-ho. The mining site is compromised. Something is spreading through the tunnels. Send help and warn everyone to stay away. The gray substance flowed over his communicator, cutting off the transmission. Within minutes, all 4 humans in the chamber were covered by the alien matter. They stood together, their eyes changed, their humanity consumed by something ancient and hungry. The thing that had once been Park Sola smiled with gray lips. Now we understand, she said in a voice that carried the weight of eons. The void seed awakens. The harvest begins. Deep beneath the chamber, in flooded tunnels that had been sealed for 3,000 years, something vast and terrible stirred. The bioweapon of the Devourers had tasted human minds and found them useful. It had learned about human technology, human settlements, human weaknesses. Most importantly, it had learned that humans had built ships that could travel between the stars. The gray substance began spreading through the mining tunnels at an incredible rate, seeking more minds to consume, more knowledge to absorb. Every piece of human technology it touched became part of its growing intelligence. 20 kilometers away, at the original tunnel site, Vorthok suddenly raised his head and howled in despair. His ancient senses felt the weapons awakening like a knife in his heart. Dr. Tae-sung, who had just arrived with his scientific team, watched in horror as the alien guardian struggled to his feet, despite his weakness. What's happening? Tae asked, but Vorthok was already moving toward the flooded tunnel behind him. The ancient guardian spoke rapidly, his words filled with urgency and grief. The translation program on Hannah's tablet, which she had left with the research team, displayed his message. Too late, the void seed feeds. It has taken your people's minds and learned your secrets. Now it will spread to consume this world and reach for the stars. I must activate the final protocol. I must finish what my people started 3,000 years ago. As Vorthok disappeared into the dark tunnel, heading toward chambers that had been sealed since his civilization fell, Dr. Tae-sung realized that the nightmare was only beginning. The weapon was awake. It was learning, and it was hungry for more than just one small mining team. It wanted the entire galaxy. The emergency alarms in New Seoul Colony had been wailing for 2 hours. Governor Lee Min-ho stood in the command center, watching satellite feeds that showed a growing gray stain spreading across the landscape from the mining site. The alien substance was consuming everything in its path, turning rocks, plants, and soil into more of itself. Evacuation status report, the governor demanded. Captain Jin Woo checked his tablet. We've got 3,000 people loaded onto the transport ships, 7,000 still waiting for evacuation. The ships can't load fast enough. How long until that gray stuff reaches the colony? At current rate of spread, maybe 6 hours, but it's accelerating. Every time it consumes more organic matter, it moves faster. Dr. Hannah Kim burst into the command center, her face pale with fear and exhaustion. She had been running between the evacuation ships and Vorthak's tunnel site for hours, trying to coordinate with both the human authorities and the alien guardian. "Governor, I've been communicating with Vorthak," she said, breathlessly. "He says the weapon is worse than we thought. It's not just spreading across the planet. It's learning about our technology, our star maps, our other colonies." "What do you mean learning?" "Every human mind it consumes gives it more information." Director Park's team had access to colonial databases, star charts, ship designs. The weapon now knows everything they knew. Captain Jinwoo's face went white. "You're saying it could build ships and spread to other worlds?" "That's exactly what I'm saying. Vorthak told me this is how the Devourers conquered the galaxy 3,000 years ago. They would send the Void Seed to a world, let it consume the local population and learn their technology, then use that knowledge to build ships and spread to more worlds." Governor Lee sank into his chair. "How do we stop it?" Vorthak says. "His people built a failsafe, a fusion bomb buried deep beneath the tunnel system. But there's a problem." "What kind of problem?" Hannah took a deep breath. "The bomb requires 2 different species to activate it together. The Kethver designed it that way to prevent any single race from using it as a weapon. It needs both alien and human genetic codes to trigger the detonation, so Vorthak can help us activate it. He's dying, Governor. 3,000 years of standing guard, plus starvation and exhaustion. He barely has strength left to reach the activation chamber, and even if we can activate the bomb, it will destroy the entire planet." The room fell silent as everyone understood what that meant. Activating the bomb would stop the weapon from spreading, but it would also kill everyone still on the planet. "How big is this bomb?" Captain Jinwoo asked quietly. "Big enough to crack the planet's crust and create a miniature star. Nothing would survive." Governor Lee looked at the evacuation reports. 7,000 people still waiting for transport, with only 6 hours until the weapon reached the colony. Even if they worked perfectly, they could only evacuate maybe 4,000 more people in that time. "That means 3,000 colonists would die even if we trigger the bomb," he said. "And if we don't trigger it, the weapon spreads to every human world in the galaxy," Hannah replied. "Billions of people would die instead of 3,000. Dr. Tae-sung's voice came through the communication system from the tunnel site. "Governor, you need to see this. I'm sending you video from our scanners." The main screen lit up with an image from deep underground. The camera showed vast chambers filled with gray, pulsing substance. But worse than that, the substance was building things, complex structures that looked like ship components, communication arrays, and star charts. "It's already started," Tae's voice explained. "The weapon is using human knowledge to build space-capable technology. Our scans show at least 12 ship-like structures under construction." "How long until they're finished?" the governor asked. "Based on the construction rate, maybe 18 hours. Once those ships launch, the weapon will spread to every inhabited world in this sector." Hannah's communicator crackled with Vorthak's weak voice, translated by her tablet. "Human leaders, can you hear me? I am in the activation chamber. The fusion device is ready, but I cannot complete the sequence alone. Someone must come to help me trigger it." Governor Lee looked around the command center at his staff. "Who volunteers to go down there?" "I'll go," Hannah said immediately. "Vorthak trusts me, and I know how to communicate with him." "Absolutely not," Captain Jinwoo protested. "Dr. Kim, if you go down there, you'll die when the bomb goes off. If I don't go down there, everyone dies when the weapon spreads to other worlds." "I'll go with her." Dr. Tae's voice came through the communicator. "She need help carrying the equipment to interface with the alien systems." "You'll both die," the captain said. "Then we'll die, saving billions of people," Hannah replied firmly. "That's what humans do. We sacrifice ourselves to protect others." Vorthak's voice came through the translator again. "The weapon grows stronger. I feel it learning more from the minds it has consumed. Soon it will have enough knowledge to build faster ships, better weapons. The choice must be made now." Governor Lee made the hardest decision of his life. "Dr. Kim, Dr. Tae-sung, you have authorization to proceed with the activation sequence. Captain Jinwoo, continue evacuation operations. Get as many people off this planet as possible." "Governor," Hannah said. "There's something else," Vorthak told me. "The bomb will create a subspace pulse that will warn other civilizations about the weapon. It's designed to send a message across the galaxy, telling everyone about the Devourers and how to recognize their weapons. A warning system, the Kethver's final gift to the galaxy. Even in dying, they wanted to help others avoid their fate." Hannah and Dr. Tae gathered their equipment and headed for the tunnel entrance. Behind them, the evacuation continued frantically. As the gray stain spread closer to the colony. At the tunnel site, Vorthak waited in a chamber deep underground, his yellow eyes growing dim with exhaustion. Ancient alien machinery surrounded him, dormant for 3 millennia, but still functional. The fusion bomb waited in the center of the chamber, a device of incredible power, built by a dying civilization's last hope. I'm coming, Vorthok, Hannah said into her communicator as she descended into the flooded tunnels. Hold on, just a little longer. Above them, the weapon continued to spread and build, racing to complete its ships before the humans could stop it. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, depending on the courage of a dying alien guardian and 2 human scientists willing to sacrifice everything. In 6 hours, either the weapon would launch its ships and begin consuming worlds across the galaxy, or a small star would be born in the place where Kepler 442b once stood. The choice belonged to humanity now. Dr. Hannah Kim and Dr. Tae Sung waded through the flooded tunnels deep beneath Kepler 442b's surface. The water was knee-deep and ice-cold, but they pressed forward through the darkness. Following the ancient path that Vorthok had taken hours earlier, their flashlights cut through the black water, revealing walls covered with Kethfer symbols that had been carved 3,000 years ago. The water level is definitely dropping, Tae observed, checking his scanner. Whatever the weapon is doing, on the surface, it's affecting the underground water systems. That means we don't have much time. Hannah replied, if the water drops too far, the weapon will spread down here too. They reached a massive chamber carved from solid rock. In the center stood an enormous device that looked like a fusion reactor, but far more advanced than anything humans had built. Surrounding it were control panels covered with alien symbols and interfaces designed for clawed hands instead of human fingers. Vorthok lay beside the central console, his breathing shallow and labored. When he saw Hannah, his yellow eyes brightened slightly. You came, he said, his voice barely a whisper through the translator. I was not certain humans would choose sacrifice over survival. We're here to help, Hannah said, kneeling beside the ancient guardian. Tell us what we need to do. Vorthok struggled to lift his head. Toward the control panels, the fusion device requires activation codes from both our species. I have input the Kethfer sequence, but the human genetic markers must be added within the next hour, or the system will lock down permanently. Tae examined the alien interfaces with his scanner. I'm reading massive energy buildup in this device. This isn't just a bomb, it's a stellar ignition system. It will literally turn this planet into a small star. That is the only way to be certain the weapon is destroyed, Vorthok explained. The Void Seed can survive almost anything, but not stellar fusion. The energy will also create a subspace warning pulse that will reach every inhabited system in this galactic arm. Above them, they could hear rumbling sounds as the weapon continued to consume the planet's surface. Hannah's communicator crackled with reports from the colony. Dr. Kim, this is Governor Lee. The gray substance has reached the outer settlements. We've evacuated 5,000 people, but there are still 2,000 waiting for transport. How long until the last ship leaves? Hannah asked. 3 hours maximum. After that, anyone still on the planet will be trapped. Hannah looked at Tae, then at Vorthok. We need to wait as long as possible to give more people time to escape. The longer we wait, the stronger the weapon becomes, Vorthok warned. Already it has consumed many minds and learned much about human space travel. Soon it will complete the ships it is building. Tae's scanner beeped urgently. He's right. I'm detecting massive construction activity at the mining site. The weapon is building at least 15 spacecraft, and they're almost finished. How long until they can launch? Based on the construction rate, maybe 4 hours. Hannah did the math in her head. The last evacuation ship would leave in 3 hours, but the weapons ships would be ready in 4 hours. They had a 1-hour window to activate the bomb after the evacuations were complete. Vorthok, can you hold on for 3 more hours? The ancient guardian's breathing was getting weaker, but he nodded slowly. I have waited 3,000 years. I can wait 3 more hours. For the next 3 hours, they monitored the situation on the surface while preparing the activation sequence. Hannah learned to operate the Kethfer interfaces, while Tae studied the fusion device's incredible technology. This is amazing, Tae whispered as he examined the alien engineering. Their understanding of stellar physics is centuries ahead of ours. This device doesn't just create a fusion explosion, it actually triggers the same process that births a star. Your people could learn much from this technology, Vorthok said weakly. But the Kethfer knowledge dies with me. Our civilization kept no records that survived the weapons consumption. Maybe not, Hannah said, pulling out her tablet. I've been recording everything you've told me about your people, your history, your technology. If we survive this, humanity will remember the Vorthok's eyes showed something like gratitude. You would honor the memory of a dead species. We would honor the memory of guardians who gave everything to protect the galaxy. Captain Jin Woo's voice crackled through the communicator. Dr. Kim, the last evacuation ship is preparing for departure. All remaining colonists are aboard. How many people made it out? Hannah asked. 8,200. We lost about 1,800 people who couldn't reach the evacuation points. In time, Hannah felt a weight settle in her stomach. 1,800 people had died because the weapon spread too fast. But if they didn't activate the bomb now, billions more would die when the weapons ships reached other worlds. Understood, Captain. Begin final departure sequence. Dr. Kim, the captain's voice was emotional. It's been an honor serving with you. The honor was mine, Captain. Take care of the survivors. As the last human ship departed Kepler 44b, Hannah and Tay began the final activation sequence. Tay connected his scanner to the alien interfaces, creating a bridge between human and Kethver. Technology, genetic scan complete, Tay announced. The system is accepting human DNA markers. Vorthok dragged himself to the central console and placed his clawed hand on a crystalline interface. For my people, he whispered. For all the worlds the Devourers will never consume. Hannah placed her hand on the human interface panel. For the galaxy, together, the last Kethver and a human scientist completed the activation sequence that had waited 3,000 years. The fusion device began to hum with incredible power, building toward ignition. How long do we have? Hannah asked. 10 minutes until detonation. Tay read from his scanner. The stellar ignition will happen almost instantly after that. Vorthok closed his yellow eyes and smiled peacefully. At last, my vigil ends. I will see my people again in the stars. Vorthok, Hannah said softly, will you tell me about them? About your people? The ancient guardian's voice grew stronger as he spoke of memories 3 millennia old. The Kethver were builders and teachers. We loved knowledge and beauty. We explored the stars, not to conquer, but to learn and to share what we discovered. With others, when the Devourers came, we tried to reason with them, to find peaceful solutions. We did not understand that some evils cannot be reasoned with, only stopped. But you stopped them, Tay said. You've been stopping them for 3,000 years, and now humans will carry that burden, Vorthok replied. Your species showed wisdom today. You chose to sacrifice yourselves rather than let evil spread. The galaxy will remember this choice. The fusion device's humming grew louder. Through their communicators, they could hear the panic in the weapons constructs as it sensed the approaching destruction. The gray substance was trying desperately to complete its ships and escape the planet. 5 minutes to detonation. Tay announced, I have a confession. Hannah said to Vorthok, I'm terrified. Fear is natural. The ancient guardian replied, but you are not alone. All the Kethver who died guarding this weapon before me will welcome you among the stars. And someday, Tay added, other species will find the warning we're about to send. They'll know about the Devourers and how to stop them. Our sacrifice will save worlds we'll never see. In the final minute, as the fusion device reached critical ignition, Vorthok spoke one last time. Tell me about Earth, he whispered. Tell me about the world that raised such brave guardians. Hannah smiled through her tears and began describing blue skies, green forests, and oceans that reflected sunlight like diamonds. She told him about human music and art, about children laughing in playgrounds, about the beauty that humanity was willing to die to protect. The fusion device reached ignition. For a brief moment, the underground chamber was filled with the birth of a star. Then Kepler 4, for to be ceased to exist, replaced by a small bright sun that would burn for 10,000 years. The subspace pulse raced across the galaxy at faster than light speed, carrying the complete record of the Devourers, their weapons, and how to stop them. Every spacefaring civilization received the message, along with the story of the Kethver Guardians and the human scientists who chose duty over survival. Captain Jin Woo, watching from the bridge of the evacuation fleet, saw the new star appear. Where their planet had been, they did it, he said quietly. They actually did it. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're receiving a message. It's from Earth Command. The message was brief but profound. The sacrifice of Kepler 4 for 2B colony has been noted by all human worlds. The Kethver Memorial Watch will be established to search for and contain other Devourer weapons. Doctors Hannah Kim and Tae Sung will be remembered as heroes who saved the galaxy. Years later, when human explorers found other Devourer weapons in distant systems, they knew how to recognize and contain them. The Kethver Guardian's final gift had saved countless worlds from the fate that befell the ancient builders. And in the constellation that now contained a new star, spacefaring species from across the galaxy would pause to remember the courage of a dying alien guardian and to human scientists who proved that sometimes the greatest strength lies in knowing when to let go.